But look, on Arsenal, I want to go to D first of all. Like a crazy win for you in the end. I think for a neutral and enthralling game. What did you make of Arsenal today, your performance, and of course picking up those points?
That was I'd say, a standard performance. It wasn't the same performance as last season, where we were absolutely dominating the whole game against United. It was more of a situation where we didn't know whether to press or to sit off. And yeah, you guys are talking about Onana, arguing about him, but the reason why we couldn't press Man United because of Onana. He is so good on the ball where if we got close to Onana, he's finding a way to pass it to his left, pass it to his right. So it was so hard to press him. Another thing I want to speak about is Declan Rice. People are saying that he's not a defensive midfielder, he's not a six. The way he performed as a lone six, absolutely fantastic. People were moaning that Partey's out for 3-4 months. Yeah, that's a disappointment. But we've got someone in Declan Rice that can cover the pitch. He's got great athleticism. He can have a shot, and that goal, that silenced the haters. So I'm so happy about that goal from Declan Rice. And yeah, it wasn't a penalty. People are going to argue about the Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, another game, another poor performance from him. I don't know why Arteta's still sticking in with him on the pitch. I don't know what he offers. He cost us the first goal. He didn't really do much. He missed a sitter. And we need to start playing Fabio Vieira instead of Kai Havertz. Eddie Nketiah did all right. Saka was quiet today. Martinelli was probably one of our best players, him and Odegaard and Declan Rice. And yeah, it's a good win, but I'm still worried about the performances that we're having. That's what I'm worried about mainly, yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, do you agree with that? Happy with the win, but still worried about the performances?
Definitely. What I would say is a weird feeling to tell, because obviously I'm very happy we won the game. And in the manner that we did it as well, that showed, basically the Arsenal of last season where we was, not giving up. And I like that. I like the fact that the players and the manager, and I can credit them today because they didn't give up. Their heads could have dropped after that Garnacho goal. Even though it wasn't a goal and it was ruled offside, their heads could have dropped. And instead they went and won the game. Now, I call that a get out of jail performance by Arsenal, really, because we did get out of jail today. For large parts of that game, we wasn't great. We really wasn't. We can talk about Kai Havertz. Obviously, my feelings on Kai Havertz. And again, he had a very poor performance. I think that first half chance kind of sums up Kai Havertz for me. He should be putting that in the back of the net. And yeah. And you know what? If I'm Gabriel Martinelli today, I'm coming off that pitch, and regardless of whether we won or not, I am very frustrated. Because the amount of times that I see him reach the byline, put the ball in the box, a decent ball in the box as well, and nobody was there. If I was him, I'd be frustrated with that. I really would. Because there's nowhere to be seen was Eddie Nketiah, nowhere to be seen was Bukayo Saka. I thought they had very poor performances. And fine margins, really. Fine margins tell, because, we'd be having a completely different conversation if that Garnacho goal had stood. But you have to kind of credit the manager and the players. I think Arteta needs to kind of learn a little bit from this as well, because there were certain players on that pitch that shouldn't have played as many minutes as what they did today. And I think he left his substitutions quite late, but at the same time, his substitutions worked. So you have to credit the manager with that. What I would say is defensively, I'm still very worried. When the team lineup came out today, I thought, that's better. That's the team that I want to see. Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White. But I don't know. I don't know if it's because we're playing such a high line and trying to attack so much that we leave ourselves exposed. But I kind of had that feeling that every time Man United went forward today, they could have scored. And there was, not that you created like massively great chances, but I do think if you had better finishers and, you got yourself in some very good situations as well. And if you'd have done better with them, maybe we'd be talking about something different altogether. But it just seems like we're very exposed, especially on the counter-attack. And I want us to try and shore that up a little bit. But obviously, Declan Rice's goal will get a lot of praise. But I thought his overall performance today was excellent. I thought he was easily the best player on the pitch for me. And yeah, that's all I've got to say, Tel. But I'm pleased because we can take confidence from this now, hopefully. Obviously, the international breaks come a little bit at the wrong time for us, because I'd like, to take that momentum into obviously next week, but there's no game next week. So hopefully we can take the confidence from this. But yeah, Dale's right. The performances have to improve. And I think he has to drop Kai Havertz now. He does. Fabio Vieira, again, he came on today and he was very good. So
yeah, he's Fabio Vieira certainly is, and it was a player that I kind of weirdly was sticking up for when it comes to you guys over the summer, because he was being written off as a flop. And I'm going to sound like a very old man here. I'm going to try and bring some more old school standards back to football analysis. And you can write a player off whenever you want, but for me, it was always you gave them a couple of years, especially when they moved to the UK from another league. You gave them a couple of years to see what they could do before you completely, doesn't mean you don't criticize them, but before you completely write them off. And Fabio Vieira, to me, I was watching him during preseason, watched him a few times he's come on for you this year. He just looks like an improved player, a more settled player. I wish Anthony had the improvements so far that he has had. So I do think he's got a start. I think he's better than Kai Havertz. I think he's got more technical ability than Kai Havertz. And he's got the most important thing for an attacker, GA. GA is what wins you games at the end of the day. Let your defense sort out not conceding bloody goals, and give him a go. Gunnar Souls, obviously, the boys have sort of said happy with the win, not the performance. Do you echo that, or did you see it differently?
I mean, I agree. I mean, the performance can be concerning, but I think Arteta's definitely learned from preseason the way that you guys attacked us, the way you pressed us, the way you got in behind quite a lot with Sancho, and he adapted the game that way. He said, look, we'll have phases. It looked a lot more like our last season performances to some degree, other than the fact that when we got to the final third, we just weren't clinical enough. And the reason why I say that is when you look at last season, we used to go through spells within the game where we looked a lot better, we dominated the ball, we pressed better, and then we sat back, and then we did it again. And I feel like what Arteta wanted the team to do was not get caught out the way Rashford did in the first goal. And he wanted us to sit back, let them dominate the ball, because that's the game you don't want to play. And the game we want to play is to dominate the ball. So coming into that game, Ten Hag clearly had a plan to transition, and you can see it from the first goal. And you can see it from even the Garnacho goal. It was a transition from a mistake. Let us capitalize on their mistakes. They're going to commit men forward, which we did. Saliba and Gabriel were on the edge of your box in most of the games as well. So it was very easy for you to transition. So Arteta said, look, let's let them get comfortable, let them get into the game, and then we'll hit them. And it didn't work because a lot of the times when we did hit use, Nketiah wasn't in the box, Saka wasn't in the box, Odegaard, other than the goal, wasn't in the box. Kai Havertz, whose primary role is to be in the box, wasn't in the box. So I feel like there is a transition going on. I feel like there's an lack of understanding of the tactics from the manager being communicated to the players to some phases of the game. And that's how I felt today. But you know what it is? This is the first time in probably a very long time. I'm so glad there's an international break, because I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of players who need to take a hard look at themselves. And that includes the manager. Arteta and some of these players have to look in the mirror and go, am I cut out for this? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Havertz, yes, he was awful. He needs to look at himself as well today. But you know the one guy, I'm going to say it, and I know this is going to get the fans riled up, Bukayo Saka. He has been shit this season. Absolutely awful this season. And I don't know what's happened. I don't know whether it's a tactical thing. I don't know whether it's Partey becoming, the inverted right back. Today he had Ben White and still couldn't beat the man. I know people are going to say Dalot had a good performance. Dalot did this, Dalot did that. But the reality is, I looked at Saka and I was like, this guy has to come off. Get Havertz off and get him off. I know people are going to say he assisted the Declan Rice goal. I hear that. But the guy overall has been, all 4 games, other than the goal he scored against Nottingham Forest, I genuinely have not liked his performances. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an ego developing. I don't know if it's the fact that his system's changed, whether he's being found out, whether it's a case of he needs to learn and overcome something. But he's not been good. But I'll tell you one thing, though. The only positive right now is Declan Rice is 1,000,000% the bargain of the summer. And at £100 million, this guy is looking like a phenomenon. And that's the part I'm happy with. But I'm glad that we've got 2 weeks to try and fix a lot of these things up. And I do think when Jesus primarily is back into this team, we'll start to see a bit of the old Arsenal back. But it's a 3-1. I don't want to go too into the players. But I do think there is certain criticisms that have to be made because there's too many games that they've been poor for.
Can I just say I agree? I agree completely with Sauls about the Saka situation as well. And to me, I don't think it's that he's been found out or any of that. I just think this kid is suffering from burnout. He's played so many games for Arsenal Football Club. Then he plays for England every single time there's an international break or a World Cup or the Euros. You know, and this was always the worry for me and the majority of the Arsenal fan base, especially coming out of this transfer window without sufficient cover for him at right wing. Because, you know, if he's suffering from burnout, which, you know, we see that in the last 8 games of the season last season, and it seems to have been a continuating thing into this season, are we going to get the best performances that we see last season from Bukayo Saka? You know, so Arteta's got to work that out, because I do feel like this guy needs a rest. Otherwise, you are going to burn him out completely.
Is it possible to ask a question, Terry? Just on Saka quickly, because there was the challenge on Bruno. Was that red cardable or not?
No.
Like, genuine question.
I feel like with the situation, it's not, because you got to understand Dalla was holding him back.
Yeah,
So
I
they gave
was.
a foul to Arsenal, so they can't really give him a red card for giving a
I
foul.
was surprised that they didn't check. I didn't think it was a red, but normally in those situations they do a check, and I'm surprised they didn't check. But it was the right call in the end anyway.
They did. I thought Gary Neville said they're checking it.
Oh,
they
did
did
check. I
check
don't know.
it. See, for me, I didn't think it. I didn't think it was. It was too. If it was middle of the shin or higher, maybe. But it was like ankle height, and typically you don't get them when they're on the ankle. Plus, yeah, I mean,
He got fouled. So.
I actually thought for once, right, the referee actually got all of his decisions absolutely spot on today. The penalty, the offside, everything was spot on by the referee today.
He had a difficult game to manage, and he did the best. In my opinion, I think he had an 80% good game. You're not going to get every decision right when emotions are like that, but based on the
I think he did. And again, people talking about the Hoyland pull down. You're never going to get those. It would have to be literally rugby tackled. But yeah, I think he did. And you know what? Like I've criticized VAR a lot for not overturning decisions they should. Like, to see that penalty not given, I thought they could bottle this here and go, but there was contact after, but there wasn't. And they changed the rule about 7 years ago where that trailing leg. Do you remember when they changed it across the whole of UEFA? Do you remember when Rafael da Silva was sent off versus Barcelona in the Champions League? And he was tracking, he was running, he's already booked, he was running behind the man, didn't even make a tackle, and their legs just clipped each other as they're both running, got a second yellow card. That summer after that, because of that incident, it was removed from the game. So yeah, I thought he had a very good game today.